Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kinda hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Now! Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternating, where we're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I'm film school dropout Robert Jarsinski. Across from me is our casual moviegoer Carrie Jarsinski and our very own critic in residence Tim Brayton. With War for the Planet of the Apes having hit theaters this past weekend, we're taking a look at Rise and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes as part of our spoiler alert episode. But first, we're about halfway through the summer of movies, so I thought we'd check in with how we're actually doing for the year as far as our movie viewing goes. Sure.
I've seen some movies.
Yeah, you've seen some movies? I hope so.
Maybe you go first so that I can artificially increase mine.
Okay, so there are a couple different ways we could do this. There's the how many movies have I watched? There's the how many movies have I watched for the first time? There's the how many movies have I watched that are part of the 2017 eligibility period?
The first one.
The first one. Which was the first one?
I don't remember. I was hoping you remembered. And that was just how many you've seen.
The number that I have in front of me is the number I've seen for the first time. Okay. I sadly, because I've watched a lot of movies more than one time this year because I've been working on wrapping up the ACS fundraiser reviews, and we're almost done with those, so thanks everyone.
How many are left?
Four are left. Actually, by the time this episode airs, that number might be down to 3.
Nice.
So fingers crossed. But so I've been rewatching a lot of movies because of that. So the number of movies I've seen in 2017 for the first time, and not including shorts, is 143.
Wow.
And I believe the number of movies I've seen that are eligible for like awards and what have you in 2017, I think is 42.
Okay.
Well, Tim, we know what you've been doing with your time. Care, how about you? What was your goal? Your goal was 100?
Was it?
For the year? And our goal is more gross. Like I include movies I've seen again just because I need the numbers in order to make my quota.
Artificially inflate.
I need to do whatever I can.
Whatever it takes. I've seen roughly 52 to 76 movies.
Not bad.
Yeah.
50, that's a big range.
I mean, it's somewhere in there though.
Roughly, give or take 25%, 50%.
I've been averaging
difference.
2 to 3 movies a week.
That's pretty good. That's really good.
Thanks. Yeah.
I'm at 109. At the kind of a little bit past midpoint. So I think I'm actually a little bit behind my goal of 200 if you break it down to a day.
You're going to pick it up in the winter months,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like winter movie watching goes up because you don't have anything else to do. Plus all of the stuff starts happening. So you start catching up for year.
I think the differences between Tim, you and Carrie and I is you tend to lean more towards your 2017 numbers are, as far as movies released in 2017, are probably proportional more towards that end versus for us it's purely like older movies or streaming movies is how we tend to watch things. So 2017 movies haven't been in theater. I haven't had my butt in theater seats that much this year, or as much compared to 100, not compared to the 110 movies that I've seen.
Sure.
Well, very good. So not bad. We're on track. We're gonna hopefully hit our numbers. I don't remember, Tim. Did you have a goal for the year?
The only real goal I set for myself was the 52 Films by Women project, and I'm certainly behind on that. Although I think August is going to be a good month for me to get some films directed by women directors under my belt.
Oh, good. Well, let's get into some movies we actually saw since the last episode in our Worth Mentioning segment. What is the Worth Mentioning segment? Of the movies we've seen since the last episode, which are the ones we want to talk about most? They could be great movies. They could be terrible. We share them with you either way. Care, I know we had some movies planned to watch.
Right.
So I think we saw the 2 Rise and Dawn movies, but we had a third planned.
Yep. We were going to see Spirited Away.
We're going to see Spirited Away.
The Miyazaki film. All right, because
where is it? We can't find it.
Yeah, Julian, Patreon Julian DeBerry had requested it, and we thought it was going to be easy to track down.
So we went out to Amazon, not there. We went out to, obviously it wasn't on Netflix. Then we went to go just purchase it, and then I was going to stream it. Like I was going to get a virus on my computer and just stream it. I couldn't find it that way.
First we went to our friend Tim.
Oh, and then we went to Tim.
Yeah, I do own it. Sadly, that is right now a lot of my anime films I loaned out to a friend who's doing some work on anime, and that was one of the ones.
Tell she to pick it up.
I will. He's currently not around.
Oh.
I feel like you could have a nice racket, Tim, with your collection, because we went on Amazon. I was like, oh, we'll just buy it, and we'll it was $70
I
for
didn't
the
spend
Blu-ray.
that much on it. I totally did not spend $70. It must be out of print, which I am shocked that movie's gone out of print. So the distribution rights for Spirited Away in the United States are held by Disney. And as we all know, Disney is basically evil. And I don't know the specifics of their Studio Ghibli deal, but I know that they like to artificially constrain supply as a way of increasing demand. I would not be in the smallest degree surprised to hear that they decided, nope, in 2017 you don't get to watch Spirited Away, because that's just what we want to do.
So
It's a way of making the brand look sexier by making it harder
works.
to get it.
I'm
we
more
almost
interested in
paid
seeing
the
it now.
$70. Would you pay the $70 if that was your only option?
There might
Is it
not
that
be
good?
a film that exists that I would pay $70 to see.
I
Like if
don't
it was
know.
seeing like Abel Gance's Napoleon with like live orchestral accompaniment, I'd pay that much money.
Yeah, that's one that I would pay $70 to not see.
I would not spend $70 to watch a film in my house.
That's right. Okay.
It would have to be an event.
Well, we're working on it to try and see it. So when we do get it from Tim, that's next on our docket. So we didn't get to see that, but then we did get to see a couple other theaters. We made it to the theater, and I saw The Beguiled.
I am very excited to hear how much you guys hated The Beguiled.
Well, and this is exciting because we're trying to see each other's top 5 most anticipated. So we have a frame of reference for the discussions, and hopefully trying to settle the debate through being very objective in our rankings and
Right.
averaging our rankings of all 15, or I guess it wouldn't
12.
be 15 movies, 12 movies.
There's 12 movies made our top 15 most anticipated.
So we'll do an episode later in the summer where we go back and revisit and say essentially who won.
Who won? So just handing the award to me, basically.
So The Beguiled fell on Tim's list.
The
So
Beguiled
Rob
was
and
my number 2.
Number 2.
I gave it 4 stars.
Gave it
You
4
gave it 4
I gave it a
stars?
4
I was
star.
curious what I haven't read your review.
I would say it's the best film I've seen this summer so far.
Interesting. So let me tell you a little bit about it for those who haven't seen it or heard of it. It's directed by Sofia Coppola. She did Lost in Translation, and written by Thomas Cullinan.
Well, the book is, she wrote the screenplay.
Oh, she did too. Okay, yeah. It stars Nicole Kidman, Kirsten Dunst, who I confuse with most people, Elle Fanning, and Colin Farrell. And it's a Civil War era tale of 7 creepy women who don't understand that Colin Farrell is just not that into you, and they go out on a quest to win over his love.
I think that is an intriguing way to summarize the plot of that movie.
It's pretty accurate, right?
I would like to hear Rob's thoughts.
Yeah, I actually like the premise. The premise to me is very interesting, and it's based on there's an original
So there's
Clint Eastwood movie,
a
right?
book that was turned into a movie directed by Clint Eastwood, or directed by Don Siegel, starring Clint Eastwood. It was the film they made immediately before Dirty Harry.
Oh, so this is kind of big before his big breakout.
Oh no, he was huge.
Oh, is he huge by then?
This was The Beguiled did not do well, but Clint Eastwood was a huge name.
The premise to me is very intriguing, and it sets up to be a thriller. So I was going in to see a thriller.
No. So the actual premise is that it's the Civil War, and a Union soldier who's been very, very, very badly wounded to the point of almost dying somehow manages to scramble his way to the steps of a girls' school in the South. And so the teacher of the school, who is played by Nicole Kidman, somewhat against her better judgment, takes him in and heals him. And since this is a girls' school and it's war and there are no men around and there's this like very steamy, hot, sexy Union guy, it causes different forms of sort of sexual tensions
And they arise.
with various people, and he knows this and he decides to use it to his advantage.
Yeah, that's also a way to say it. That is also a plot summary there. But yeah, the trailer for this indicated a movie that was far different from what we ended up seeing.
That's the thing. It was advertised as a thriller. There's no two ways about it. And I knew that it wasn't going in because I'd seen the original Clint Eastwood film. I've never read the book, and it's definitely not a thriller.
Yeah, it's slow to the point where I was getting so bored that I would have slept with Colin Farrell. Like, that's kind of where I was. It's just, I think what I'm finding is
I don't know if I approve of that way of framing it, sir.
I just, Sofia Coppola is just maybe not my bag.
Not your bag?
Yeah, it's just very slow. I didn't find the intentions of the characters to be authentic, and the tension of the sexual tension to be, it just wasn't set up very well for me. And it was just so plodding and slow, and there was no payoff for me. And there was a lot of things that just were unbelievable to me, where I couldn't suspend my disbelief enough in the film. I don't know, what did you like about it, Care?
So
What are the
here's
things you liked?
here's the weird twist about this. I actually liked the movie.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm very surprised to hear
I
that.
was really surprised
I was expecting
too.
you both be in like the 2-star range.
No, I wasn't. I actually did find it to be a little bit. The tension is what I was drawn into. So, like when you're saying about the sexual tension, like my stomach was fluttery through the entire movie because I was like, what's gonna happen? And like, there's so many women and just one man, one dude. And while I personally could have avoided the whatevers of Colin Farrell because he doesn't do it for me, most of them could not. I won't spoil. We shouldn't talk about this too much.
We shouldn't talk about where it goes.
But yeah.
Let us just say that the elder, even the young children, like all of the women are in some way
Drawn to
captivated by him, and in some cases it's more explicitly sexual. And some of the women are excited to have this sexual feeling, and some of them are Nicole Kidman, whose whole thing is basically being like one of our best sort of sexually repressed actresses, and she's very much not okay with it, and that's kind of what drives the plot.
No, and I like everything what you're saying on paper leads to a very intriguing premise. It's just for me, it wasn't delivered.
It is slow as hell.
It didn't deliver on it.
I think the slowness built the tension though for me. That was the thing. I was like,
to me, what this movie is, this is a movie about is it set in is it in one of the Carolinas?
I think
Virginia.
it was
It's Virginia.
Yeah.
So it's like you're in this Virginia forest that looks like the jungle.
And there's crickets
and there's
all
crickets and there's shafts of light, and you can just feel the humidity. Like
Yes.
it is a sweaty, dusty, dark movie. And you've got all these shots inside. I will say one of the things I love about it, I think it's beautiful. I think it's the most beautiful film I've seen this year. So you've got like they're in the house and it's dark and it's only lit by these candlelights, so it's really moody, and it's just like it's oppressive with mood. And that's the thing that I really respond to. Like it just feels so hot and so heavy and so suffocating to be in this world. And I think that's what to me pushes the tension and the thrills such as we get them is like this crushing atmosphere. And the fact that it moves so slow for me does build to that.
Yeah. So unfortunately for my chances because I know we're going to do the thing where we score and who wins, unfortunately this gets 3 stars for me.
Wow.
Which hurts my rankings, unfortunately.
I will say that I've done the preliminaries based on what movies have come out
Did
so
I say
far.
3? I meant 2 stars.
I will say that you would be in a great position if you had picked any other film than The Book of Henry.
Shoot, I know.
Oh, and I feel this is not meant to be. I struggled with the objectivity, not objectivity, but with my rating for this. It is a 1.5 star for me. I was so bored, and the banter. And I'm not doing it just to get your average down for the game side of it. It's just
Didn't do it.
The dialogue was not authentic, and there were so many scenes which we'll have to talk about offline, or maybe I'll go onto our review page and kind of drop some things like about some of the things that didn't sit well with me. I don't know how you guys do this. I go into every movie starts out as a 3-star movie, and then as it progresses, like in my mind, I'm like up a half, up a half, down a half. All right, now we're back up a half.
It's complicated, Rob.
Or do you just kind of look at it as a whole?
As a whole.
At the end?
Yeah.
It depends on the movie.
Yeah. This one,
I will say that like Spider-Man started out as a 3 for me. Homecoming, and it was like, what is it going to do to bend the needle? And it did nothing whatsoever, so it just stayed at a 3 the whole time.
So that's what we saw, Tim. How about, and I know you saw.
Quick thing before is, if you do plan seeing this movie, I don't recommend that you need to see this in theaters. As a side note, you kind of think it's pretty, but
it's extremely pretty, but not in a way that specifically. It benefits from being seen in a dark room, but I don't think it benefits from being seen on a movie
don't
theater
watch it
screen.
on an airplane screen.
Don't watch it on your phone while you're on the bus.
I knew right away that Tim had the aesthetic that you go for, and the way that I early tell for me that I'm not going to enjoy a movie is if the Rotten Tomatoes are really high and then the user rating for Rotten Tomatoes is really low, like those ones that really hit critics but then can't capture the average audience member. I know I'll tend to lean more towards the audience side in those cases.
I feel like at some point before this year is done, we're going to have to promote Carrie and demote you to being our casual moviegoer.
Fair enough.
I'm learning some things here. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is very slow. It is very pretty. It basically is like a sexy all-woman version of Barry Lyndon.
I was in the mood for that, I guess. So sorry. So go back to you.
I also saw one of the films from our most anticipated of the summer list, and it was one of yours, Carrie. It was The Big Sick.
So tell me, don't tell me much.
I don't want to tell you guys much. It's going wide. It went wide this weekend, so everyone should have a chance to see it. It is a romantic comedy about a stand-up comic in Chicago named Kumail and a graduate student named Emily who meet and have this very cute bantery, like, it's 2017 and we have smartphones and Ubers and he's an Uber driver and like she keeps requesting him and it's like, it's oh so cute. And then she becomes very sick and they've broken up. She becomes sick. She ends up having to go through a medically induced coma and
don't tell me anymore. I feel like I know everything.
I feel like that's all pretty laid out there in the trailer.
I don't know.
This isn't
I'm
even
worried.
like, I haven't even introduced two of the main characters.
Okay, sorry,
yet.
go on.
So she's in a coma and her parents come to be with her. And so her ex-boyfriend who's still in love with her and her parents are all like in this hospital together. And that's all I'll tell you. The ex-parents are played by Ray Romano and Holly Hunter. Her parents are played by Ray Romano and Holly Hunter. The actor who plays Kumail Nanjiani, I'm sure I just butchered his name, Pakistani American who actually experienced this with his wife, Emily V. Gordon. They wrote the screenplay. This is the story like of how they met and fell in love and are married now. So it's a romantic comedy. It is a story about struggling stand-up comedians, and it is a film about meeting the parents of the person you love under extraordinarily adverse conditions. And it is definitely the best of the third of those things.
Yeah.
It's a little precious as a romantic comedy. And I frankly think it's kind of boring as a film about stand-up comedians. It's part of the whole Judd Apatow generation of like, let's not write a script. Let's just riff our way on set until we've got enough to cut together. I think it's very sloppily put together. It's not as sloppy as a lot of these movies are. It should be shorter. It should have less about stand-up. But it is so just adorable and also really, really smart and has this really sharply focused racial element that it does not, like, that's not the point and that's not the thing it wants you to walk away from, but it's 100% there and it's 100% like part of what's driving the plot.
Yeah.
Just really fantastically charming, the smartest, best romantic comedy in many, many years.
Since What If?
Yes.
Thought so. How many stars did you give it?
I gave it 4.
You did. I was
so close to the 3.5.
You're like, gotta give it 4.
And I was like, I got to. It's too affable. It's too likable.
When you call movies precious, Tim, those are the ones that Carrie and I seem to like, that we fall for.
You guys are going to love it. Carrie, I think it is going to be your favorite of the 5 films you put on your most anticipated. Yes. I really think that.
And I fear it also will land pretty high on my rating list, too.
Let me just rake in those 4s and 5s.
I think it's going to help you compensate for your disastrous choice of the Book of Henry.
Yeah. Again, good trailer. Quick side note on it too. Did you find Ray Romano distracting as a character?
He's great.
Really?
He's great. Holly Hunter's great. To me, they're the 2 best in show.
So, were you a Everybody Loves Raymond fan?
I wasn't Everybody Loves Raymond fan.
See, and I didn't. I thought he was off-putting in that show, so I was worried that he might be distracting in this, but if he pulls it off, I'll be curious to see.
I would say he is doing something enough different from his sitcom work that you would not necessarily dislike him in it just for that. I mean, he's still Ray Romano. He's not like a great actor, but I think what the role wants him to do, he's doing very well.
Okay, cool. I'm very, very excited to see it. So,
well, be sure to check out reviews of both of those. Hopefully, I think they're both ready by the time they air.
Yeah, they're both up as of the time of recording.
Perfect.
And we won't tell you when that is.
Remember, it's
June 12th.
You can find more details about all the movies we've watched at our website, alternatending.com. That's alternatending.com. Before we head to our break, you might be wondering about ways to support the show. Direct from our website, you can head to our Patreon page, which provides you access to a ton of perks. You may want to make us watch a movie like Julian DeBerry. Eventually, we'll get to that when we find it. Have Tim write a review. Pick your own episode topic. You can do it all from our Patreon page, just like Patrick Scott, who picked up our Razzie Award. Big thanks, Patrick. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Also, I want to thank all of our listeners who support the show and make their purchases through our site. Doing it is easy. Just go to our website, alternatending.com. Click on the Amazon banner and seamlessly go about your purchases. All proceeds go to making our show better. Since our last episode, people have been taking advantage of Prime Day, I think.
Yeah.
Had a lot of purchases.
Yeah, I saw a big spike that day.
Yeah, we had a couple Amazon Instant Videos, which I'm excited people are actually going and actually watching movies through our movie website.
I wish, so my hope would be if people would do that, what I would love is if you got one through the website, then like circle back and say what you like. if it was you and if you liked the
Yeah,
movie.
either shoot us an email, tag us in Facebook as Alternate Ending, go to our website, drop us a note. We're curious to see what you thought about any movie that you saw too. Yeah, we're interested in sharing that feedback here on the site.
And definitely comment on reviews, even if it's an old review, like if it's some 2006 movie that we reviewed in 2006, we get those comments, so definitely share those with us.
Here's one that I know, I think both of us saw, Kara, Tim, I'm sure you've seen it too, Amazon Instant Video, Insidious Chapter 2.
I have seen Insidious Chapter 2.
Are you a fan of the Insidious series? I
I'm
like
a
them.
fan of Insidious.
Okay.
Is that with the guy from Watchmen?
Yes. Patrick
Wilson.
Thank you.
Not
and then, this is very exciting, Carrie. You're going to get so excited.
I am?
Yes, we had Feed the Fish on Amazon Instant. So someone might have heard us talking about it.
Are you sure that wasn't us?
I'm positive it wasn't us. Yeah, I don't qualify when I make the purchases.
Cool. So whoever that is, write us and tell us what you think. I'm curious if you can.
Yeah, we have a post for it somewhere. You could probably find it through our site, through the search function. A DVD, Things to Come.
Oh, I love that movie. It's I don't know how to pronounce her name. A German director who works largely in French cinema. It's a vehicle for Isabelle Huppert. I think you'd both despise it. It's very slow moving. Nothing happens.
Not precious.
It's very French. It's the opposite of precious.
Okay.
It's about it's like the whole point of the movie is that all of the interesting points happen between scenes. And like what we see is just like Isabelle Huppert's character reacting to what happened to her. That was
You sold me on not watching.
It's so good.
Okay.
I have a friend who's a PhD candidate who's like, nothing happens in that movie. So that should tell you the degree to which nothing happens. Film academics don't like it.
We must have a friend of the show who has a motorcycle. So I remember talking about some motorcycle stuff earlier.
Did someone buy a motorcycle?
No, they did not.
Damn,
that would be pretty
been
sweet.
awesome.
Yeah,
that would be a good kickback.
That would help.
For us.
Yeah.
But someone doing some work on their BMW high, they got a high performance oil filter. You need that. You want to go fast.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're wearing a helmet. Also some synthetic oil purchase. That's the good stuff. You don't want to get the pure oil. You want to get the fake stuff. I heard lubricates the joints
the
well.
lubes.
I don't know anything about
know.
motorcycles or automotive stuff.
That was obvious. Yeah.
Also, some cell phone accessories. We had the Ram handlebar rail mount. So this is interesting too. This is iPhone is your GPS, tracks how far you ride. This is a mount for your bike. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it's one of those things that until you said it existed, I would never have thought existed, but it makes a lot of sense.
But I kind of want one now.
Also, someone going through some heavy duty, maybe some bike riding or running or driving, armor military shield for their Garmin as a little protective shield with a lifetime warranty on replacements. Need to have that if things break down. Had a 32 gig micro SD card purchase with adapter.
Chambers.
Yeah, that's holding a lot of stuff. Maybe some movies. Maybe that's a director.
I don't wish to insult you, my dear co-hosts. 32 gig is not that much.
It's not that much?
Not anymore. It was like 20 years ago.
That's true.
Now you got to get like a terabyte.
Yeah, you can get
right?
like 2 terabyte drives now.
And a little SD disc?
Like 32 gigs is like a Blu-ray.
Also some, looks like Brooks men's. I'm a big Brooks.
Is that underwear?
No, it's they're a sports apparel. They do a lot of shoes. These are men's.
Oh yeah, those are like
blue-green
orthopedic,
athletic
right?
shoes. Size 15.
That is someone has some large feet.
we won't.
Are they women's or men's?
They are men's, size 15.
Okay.
Women's size 15. That'd be interesting.
You know what?
They're out there.
It happens.
Also had Brooks Chariot purchase. Not sure. This is someone riding around with a horse. That'd be
I
pretty.
think we have a Greek. We
have a large-footed ancient Greek
man,
listens to our show.
We had some box frames, 11 by 14, for some pictures purchased, along with a rubber doormat. Welcome, the welcome thing on the front door there. Some Kindle ebooks, Democracy and Change: The Deep History of the Radical Right's Stealth Plan for America.
That was me.
They're executing on it appears, based on the news. We had a Brita replacement filter for pictures, the 3 count.
Nice.
Yeah. If you're going to get some replacement filters, stock up.
Yeah.
Some music, I'm unfamiliar with this, but just $4.44. That's the music that was purchased.
That's the new Jay-Z, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. And we were talking earlier about whether you're in the know
music?
with modern music.
I don't listen to music. I follow music news.
I thought it was like a Philip Glass. Is that a thing?
Philip Glass is a thing, but I think 444 is Jay-Z.
Is that the one where for 4 minutes it's just silence?
No, that's John Cage, and that is what is the name of it? It's not 444. I think it's 413.
Okay.
I'm sure someone will correct
You've
us.
lost me. Keep going.
It is. Keep going.
We have some office products. Teacher-created resource for computer straight border trim blue. Thank you for that. Pet supplies. A pet feeding pet feeding mat for cats and small dogs. Non-slip silicone.
I have a feeding mat for my cat. They're very good products.
like it?
I like it a lot.
That's
It keeps
good.
things clean.
Nice.
Again, now back into the realm of things I don't understand. A 3/8 of an inch drive click torque wrench. So you need the extra pull.
Yeah.
You know, you got to have the
Gotta
torque.
have the torque.
You know,
when you're
sometimes
tightening
when you're
things.
wrenching things, I mean, yeah.
210,
no, totally.
220.
And then a
whatever it takes.
socket set purchased as well
That's
too.
a nice
Yeah,
one.
3 millimeters to 10 millimeters, 9 sockets.
Is that you? Our sink has been leaking for like 3 months.
I have a socket set somewhere in the house.
Rob
I
keeps
have no
saying
idea.
he'll fix it as
I hire
soon as
people.
he finds a
Well,
wrench.
if you're going to try to fix your sink using a socket wrench set, then you clearly don't know what you're doing anyway.
So we're waiting on nothing
Yes.
for you to find that. Great.
Thank you all for your purchases. When we get back, our spoiler alert episode for Planet of the Apes. And welcome back to Alternating, where we're talking about our spoiler alert for the Planet of the Apes movies. The one coming out, just came out this week, War for the Planet of the Apes, is the third installment and also Tim's third most anticipated movie of the summer for the recent reboot of the series. I don't know if it's necessarily a reboot or a kind of prequel.
It's
series of
it's
prequels?
kind of both. It is a prequel that is not in the same continuity, but also might be because it's a weird time travel continuity situation. Excuse me. So yeah, there was a series of movies in 1960s and 70s. I think mostly in the 70s. The only one film that came out in 68. Excuse me. But the Planet of the Apes movies, based on a satirical novel by the French author Pierre Boulle, written in French, translated with a screenplay adaptation by Rod Serling, who created The Twilight Zone, which tells us, I think, most of what we need to know about what the movie The Planet of the Apes had in mind, which was to be this very piercing social commentary that has a huge twist ending, which is incredibly well known, and I'm not going to say what it is, even though the entire existence of the rest of the franchise resides on this twist, but still someone out there might never have seen it. So
I don't know the twist.
You're
so don't
safe,
tell me.
right?
No,
We're
no,
safe.
I've never seen
Spoiler
it.
alert. We talked about it when we were watching.
But
Wait, the first one. I haven't seen the old
1968
ones.
film. I mean, it's a twist that
It's too soon.
We're not going to worry about it.
Okay.
Just go see 1968's Planet of the Apes. It's a great movie. It's like the legitimate great film among the original Apes movies. So it's the story of how this astronaut crash lands on a planet of apes, and so there's a society of chimpanzees, orangutans, and gorillas. Humans are these wordless stock animals, basically. And so this human astronaut who hates humanity, that's his whole thing. He's an asshole, misanthrope, basically comes to realize how awful it would be if his vision of the world came to pass, because his vision is one in which wouldn't it be great if all the humans were dead? And guess what? He gets that. So first movie is this really, I think, wonderful satire directed by Franklin Schaffner, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. A little campy, a little stiff in a lot of ways, but it's a great score, great makeup effects, really, really engaging story. It was a huge profitable film in 1968, so 20th Century Fox ended up making a series of films. In 1970, they made Beneath the Planet of the Apes, in which another astronaut travels to the Planet of the Apes to try and find Charlton Heston's character from the first movie, ends up going underground where a race of human mutants worship a nuclear bomb. 1971's Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Every ape film spoils the existence of the previous ape films, unfortunately. So when the world blows up at the end of Beneath the Planet of the Apes, some of the apes, 3 of them or 2 of them, I believe, escape on a pod that gets caught up in the explosion of the planet and throws them back in time to the mid-1970s, where they become ape celebrities because they're these talking animals. And what the hell is that all about?
There's got to be a pun there, right?
I think it's right on the nose.
Celebrities?
Is it?
I don't know.
Celebrities. Oh, nice.
Celebrities, yeah.
But so it's actually an inversion of the original novel, which had the human who arrived at the Planet of the Apes becoming this celebrity because of how weird it is that a human's talking. So it's now how weird it is that these apes are talking. The fourth film, 1972's Conquest of the Battle of the Apes, shows what happens as the apes these very intelligent apes begin to breed, and super intelligent apes become a thing, but they're also held back by the humans, who are very much in the majority, treating them basically as slave labor. And then they stage a revolt, and the fifth and final film, 1973's Battle for the Planet of the Apes, is about how many years after that happened, there's an equilibrium between the apes and the humans, and the apes eventually win. And that's what sets up the Planet of the Apes, because it turns out that this whole time they went back in time to trigger the creation of their own world later on, where apes are dominant and humans are not. This was followed by a TV series that I've never really seen. It's not supposed to be very good, but like fun, campy. And that was followed by a remake in 2001 directed by Tim Burton, starring Mark Wahlberg, that is just god-awful.
I thought it had its moments.
It has maybe two of them. It's got good makeup.
Yeah. I don't remember it being great, but I remember it passed the time. I thought it was all right.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
It is. I have said my piece. And then 10 years after that, we get a prequel about how super intelligent apes might have come into being in the first place.
Is it a prequel or is it a reboot?
So my feeling is that, so the original 5 films in the Planet of the Apes describe like a circle, basically. The apes go back in time, they create super intelligent apes, and apes take over the planet, and then those apes go back in time, and so on and so forth. I think of the new trilogy as maybe what started that process the first time. So it's a prequel reboot mix.
That makes perfect sense.
Now we're on to
Perfect
Rise
sense
of the
right
Planet
there.
of the Apes.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes, 2011.
Right. I really, really appreciate you saving me those 15 hours of my life. I didn't realize there were 5.
There are 5, and you should see them, and they're good. And it's not; they're all short. Like they're not. It would
Are
be more like
those
9
so?
hours.
Those are all so these are obviously CGI, and these ones that are 20.
Yes.
The last 3 have been CGI, right?
CGI and motion
So were the
capture.
Donnie Wahlberg ones, right?
No, they were people in makeup.
Okay.
And it was Mark
Wahlberg. Same thing. Who was the new kid on the block again? Donnie.
We've
talked about this
Mark
in
had
so
his
many
funky
podcasts.
bunch. Donnie was a new kid.
Got it. Okay. I'll never forget it again. So the old ones, though, those were just people in makeup
Those
and
were
dressed
people in
up.
makeup.
Got it. Okay. So, yeah, this leads us into Rise of the Planet of the Apes, so we only had to see the 2 for this episode, right?
Correct.
Whew. So
Too many films. 7 films would have been overkill.
You mean like the alien situation?
That was as many films as I think we could ever plausibly get away with.
Yeah, that was stressful. So this was less stressful. We actually watched a double feature, watched them both in the same day. And we watched Rise of the Planet of the Apes first, which was from 2011. That's directed by Rupert Wyatt.
Yes.
So, and then written by Rick Jaffa.
Yeah, Rick Jaffa and
Amanda Silver. And then the book is by Pierre. That's what you said. So this one, the movie, I didn't know since I hadn't watched all these other ones what it was going to be about. I already was going in from jump, was worried. It starts off and you find out that John Lithgow, who is in this movie, has Alzheimer's. Hate movies about Alzheimer's, just in general. And then I was worried.
Hate or meaning
I just
you don't like
it. Makes me sad.
Okay.
Alzheimer's movies are very sad to
Okay.
me. So I was already worried that I wasn't going to like it. Possible impending death of apes. I was like, I don't know. I didn't have high hopes for this movie. So James Franco is in it. It's kind of an origin story, right? So it's how
James Franco came to be James Franco.
That is, you see his birth. No, you don't actually see his birth, but you do see how he ends up. He works at
He works
place.
at Genesis.
He works at a biological research facility.
Yeah, he's a smart guy, and he's researching to find a cure for Alzheimer's because his dad, John Lithgow, suffers from it. And then it's the origin story of they're developing all these medicines, and they end up giving it to the apes, and it develops these super intelligent chimpanzees.
Yeah, basically the Alzheimer, like the medication used to reconstruct the human brain tissue ends up making a chimpanzee named Caesar, who is born to a mother who has been receiving this medicine, basically gives him the cognitive abilities of an adult human, even though he is a chimpanzee.
I know. This just had sad written all over it. I don't know, to start off with. So I guess that's the setup of the movie. And just on a side note, John Lithgow.
John Lithgow, he's a good actor.
I think he's in the top 20.
I would probably agree with that.
Yeah. Did you ever see he was in Dexter?
I've not seen Dexter.
It was great Dexter.
Super creepy. So anyway, I'll digress back, but I really, really enjoyed this movie. It was probably, did you like it?
I love this movie so much.
Oh, okay, good.
I love both of these movies so much. I'm just going to spoil that right now.
I think I love them
these
evenly
movies.
for different reasons. So I think they're both 4-star movies for me, but for different reasons. So this one is the origin of the ape, and it's more focused on the relationship of humans and where the humans go away. I guess we can spoil it. Like so the medicine that you give the chimpanzees that makes them super smart kills humans, right?
Like it is a bad Alzheimer's medication because it results in people dying by a lot.
Sure, I'll start with the beginning too of the movie. I'm a fan of any like like sweet little animals. So Caesar is a baby, and the relationship between him and James Franco. You're gonna get me to shed a little bit of tears.
But then, aren't you worried the whole time?
I'm worried the whole time. One of my earliest movies that I'm fond of that featured chimpanzees was Project X. If you're familiar with the Matthew Broderick movie about them
I am familiar with the movie.
It's probably X. You're making a face.
I am making a face
because it's probably not. And I haven't revisited it.
It's a fucking terrible movie.
But it highlights the abuse that a large corporation will do for animals in order to meet some sort of military agenda or whatever scientific agenda that they have. So I'm thinking Project X when I first watched this movie, and this was probably the third time now that I saw it with Carrie. I love the relationship. The act structure builds and changes so much, and it gets larger in every act. And it focuses on so many different things. It focuses on the relationship, like a father-son relationship. There's that element there. Then there's the father-son relationship of the John Lithgow who suffers Alzheimer's, and James Franco's unrelentless, willing to break all ethical standards to save his dad's memory, and succeeds but doesn't succeed at the same time. And then the overarching kind of there's bullying, and it covers so much ground.
Oh yeah. And like this is all in the first half of the movie. And then it also has this whole thing about like how do we treat animals?
Yes.
And where do we think we get off on that? And it is a movie that's asking you to root for the death by plague of humanity.
And that's a good question. Care, during the movie, did you find yourself like, get him?
Yeah, I was like, hey, take Tom Felton down. I was like,
Tom Felton is such he's one of the best assholes.
I know.
I've never liked him as a human being in anything.
Yeah, he is just, his face makes me want to just punch him in it.
I actually forgot that it was Draco Malfoy.
As I was watching the movie this time, and it's the third time I've seen it as well, so I should have known this, I was like, wow, that guy looks so much like Tom Felton. I wonder where they got an American who looked that much like Draco.
Yeah, they really play on all of your emotions. With the relationship with his dad, it's like, it's this sadness feeling, and then there's the happiness of like the baby when Caesar's a baby, and there's all those elements, and the love, and it plays on that, and then it plays on your anger, like the rage that you feel.
Does.
Yeah.
And compared to the 2001 version, 2001. Where they hadn't quite mastered. They were trying to go more practical with that, right? Or
effects-wise,
they actually had people in makeup.
There's no CGI apes in the first one.
Here, the effects are amazing, and. For the time, I really enjoyed all of the effects, and Andy Serkis's stop motion.
Oh my God, Andy! To me, this is the movie where Andy Serkis went from like, oh, you're good as Gollum, to like, oh, this is your thing. Like, you are now the actor who is going to make motion capture in art form. He's so good as Caesar. He's so unbelievably good in these movies. I do think, honestly, the CGI in the first one has not aged super well. And actually, when I went back to read my 2011 review, I even said it at the time that the effects just weren't quite there. I think particularly Baby Caesar just doesn't feel like he exists.
Oh, really? I was going to say more in the outdoor scenes when they're taking over the city, and like when there's groups of them running down the bridge and things like that, where it's like, oh, it doesn't look really.
I didn't find it distracting.
It wasn't distracting. It wasn't distracting, but it's not quite where the level
it's
to
not
where
like the
CGI
Beast from
has
Beauty
come.
and the Beast.
It was made for $93 million, so the studio obviously had a lot of faith in the script and in the actors that they were go to invest so much, and it brought in almost $500 million worldwide. So really successful movie. IMDb has it as a 7.6, and critically, I think, well acclaimed too at 81%.
Yeah, the Apes. It is one of the more critically acclaimed reboot things that has happened. And I just want to add one thing, because I'm not sure when else we'll have a chance to talk about it. This is a short movie. This is only not short, but it's like 106 minutes. And I am just always delighted by a film, a summer tentpole that's able to get that much done in that little time. And there's so much that happens in this movie. Like, there's so much plot in Rise of the Planet.
Yeah, we forgot to mention Frida Pinto. There's like a small, and it doesn't, while it leaves a lot to the imagination, it doesn't make me feel like I needed to wrap up anything. Like, it covers all of these things that we've discussed in that short amount. I agree. I like a concise movie that can get its messages across really well and not leave me with a lot of unanswered questions. The elephant in the room, or I guess the ape in the room.
Good one.
No? That's pretty good.
No.
See, Tim already lost $10 earlier because we thought you were going to say swinging into theaters, and you didn't. So
I
Tim
want
owes
to
me
pace
$10
myself.
anyway.
I pace myself.
It's good.
But it's the James Franco. Was he an ad in this movie, or net neutral? Did he detract from it? There's a lot of conversation on our site too about James Franco in this movie. How did you feel like James Franco did in this film?
Can I take this?
There you go.
I don't dislike James Franco. I do dislike James Franco. In this particular movie, I don't think he adds or takes away. The issue for me is the human plot line. I admire the way that the film is able in the middle to transition from it was a story about a man who worked in a medical institute, and it becomes a story about a chimpanzee who's mad as hell and can't take it anymore. I think that's a very interesting structure. I like the movie a lot more when it's about the apes. When it's about humans, I kind of get slightly impatient for it to get to the damn ape uprising.
I think you need it though. It's a good setup for the next one.
I agree totally. For me, it's a 3.5-star movie, and I love it. And I gave it like a heart when I reviewed it on Letterboxd. But I find the first half to be a little bit not as engaging, and it's not Franco's fault. It's Franco's character's fault, I would say.
I'm at 3.5 too. Where'd you end up with this
4.
one? You were at 4th. It's nice.
Yeah. So how did you feel about Franco himself, though?
I'm in your camp where it's just I find his face a little off-putting. I don't know. His acting is a little, for me. He was okay in 127 hours. I don't know.
I like him in the Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
He was good there too. There's just something about him that I'm not as drawn to.
I find him as a human to be very much a dilettante, and I think I read that back into some of his performances. And I think his more recent performances have gotten increasingly worse. I think what he's up to these days is bad.
I'm more on your side. Not that there's sides, but just that he didn't detract from the film to me too much. It was probably more of his character. I do find it hard. I didn't find it. It didn't take away from the movie, but I did find it hard to believe that he's this brilliant scientist. Like that, there was never anything in there that made me he has the cachet now for me, where I'm like, oh yeah, he's a brilliant scientist. He didn't really pull that off. It's not just because of his handsome, good looks.
What if it was Chris Pine?
If Chris Pine, would that? Would
that up it?
Actually,
to 4?
I probably could. It's more on the acting and what the script allows to us. So I won't put that all on James Franco too. But I didn't buy him as this genius scientist person necessarily. Yeah. And then the relationship aspect with Frida Pinto, there was very little chemistry.
They did not figure out why Frida Pinto was in that movie, and I get why she was, because you need the female lead. I don't think they had ever found something more important to do with her than just we need a woman, and that was what they landed on.
Did the passage?
And I don't think that's a reflection on Frida Pinto, who I think is very good in it, but not.
She was out of his league.
She's not being given anything. She was totally out of his league.
The only criticism I have of the movie beyond that is the passage of time to me was a little bit. Nothing seems to has really. It's 8 years. I think 8 years goes
10
by.
10 years.
Is it 10? I remember 2 title cards, 3 years and 5.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So 10 years between the first and the second movie goes by.
Correct.
Yes, but I remember 3
3 and 5
years.
Sounds right. Yeah,
and 8 years has happened, and Caesar's older. That's about all that I get from that time has passed. Nothing else is really. Everybody looks the same. Everybody's acting the same.
I think, and that's probably more than anything else what I dislike about the human plot is that he does for several years cure his father's Alzheimer's. And I get absolutely no sense whatsoever of that being significant when it is what the entire first half of the movie is about.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I should have focused more on that.
My favorite part of the movie is the ape part, and it's Caesar dealing with trying to fit in.
Right.
After being completely only exposed to a human. And it's the movie doing so much about so many things. It's also, like you said, about animals getting reintroduced to their environment after being not coddled, but kind of taken away from.
He's been raised as a human child. He goes back. He now has to interact with apes. He doesn't know how to do it. And
he does know how to do it, because think about
not at first.
Well, he comes in and then he's obviously smarter than all of them because he has this drug and the way he's been raised. And then that's one of my favorite parts of the movie, when he comes in and owns the joint. So he gets locked up. He gets taken because he bites the guy's finger, which everyone would bite that guy's finger. That namer was a jerk. But anyway, so he bites somebody. He ends up getting caged up and taken away. And then at first, there's a more dominant chimpanzee in the bunch, and then there's a giant gorilla that's locked away and whatever and is caged up, and then he comes in and he plots for like how to become the alpha in the group or whatever.
But it takes time. And I think that's what's interesting too. Again, kudos to Andy Serkis for communicating all of this.
Goddamn good. I know I already said that, but it's just worth reiterating.
Because it's also someone coming of age story for like dealing with your internal instincts, and ultimately Caesar is, and we'll get to this maybe in the next one too, he's someone who's struggling with his place and being kind of two worlds and dealing with your animal instincts and trying to suppress them for the greater good. But when he gets into that caged area, he's bullied, and he has to think about it and plot.
Yeah.
And eventually he succeeds in trying to figure out how to work the system.
Right.
But he gets his clothes ripped off of him. He's battered. He's bruised. And there's a lot of self-reflection there that goes in, like trying to fit in. And
Yep.
Yeah, that was my favorite piece of it. It was the hard, difficult to watch, but also I enjoyed that part where he just kind of came over and owned it.
Yeah.
And we have James Franco to thank for a couple things too. Essentially, his character destroys the world as we know it by making apes smarter, and also by introducing a pandemic.
I think that, it's worth pointing out that the movie is not about how the apes take over. It's about how the humans die off, leaving a space for the apes.
Right.
I would say.
Yeah, it's not. You're right. They don't really take over. It's just the virus decimates the world. Which unless you guys had some other thoughts on Rise.
No,
it's a good seg.
I want to live with Rise for just a couple of minutes because we haven't really talked about the second half, which is, I think we all agree, the better part. So let's dig into that just a little bit. For me, the movie goes from like, this is a smart, fun, more or less run-of-the-mill summer movie to, oh my God, I'm watching something great in the scene where he says no to Tom Felton.
Yes.
Thank you.
I've seen it 3 times now, and every time I'm just like, oh shit, the chimpanzee just talked.
Yeah.
And it's like so exciting. And it's such a great moment because of like, we've had all of this pent up, like, when is Caesar going to finally just beat back Tom Felton, who's a complete dick? And 2, when is the rise going to happen? Like, when do the apes finally assert themselves in the face of this really horrible thing? So it happens in this one word, which I think is just amazing everything about movies. And then you get, for the rest of the movie, this really incredible action thriller about apes escaping. It becomes a Prison Break movie.
Yeah.
Like, it literally becomes a Prison Break movie. So what did you guys think about the second half? Because we really have just kind of glossed over it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that is the stronger part of it too. And I forgot when he does like the no to it. That is really powerful.
What's amazing to me though is like, so he says it in response to Tom Felton saying, "Get your damn get your stinking whatever the
paws,
get your paws, get your damn paws off me." Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape. That's the line, which is a reference to the original film. And when I see it, I'm like, oh God, that's such a forced reference. And then it turns into this great moment. And I just don't get how that alchemy works. But anyway, so I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I picked up on the on the little nod there to the original, along with the Icarus spaceship taking flight and then being lost in space as well too. So there are a lot of nods to the.
There's also an It's a Madhouse reference in there as well. Yeah.
Okay. No, the second half I already told. It goes from a one-on-one movie really about like a father-son relationship, and then it turns into this epic action-packed blockbuster where the National Guard or whatever police is all pulled out and apes running across a bridge. But it's all the scenes really for me that stand out the most is that section where they're in the prison camp, and then the no when he speaks for the first time. You can't help but get chills. It's a great setup.
That's exactly what I go to summer movies to see, is that scene.
So great moments as well too.
Did you guys have a favorite character?
Andy Serkis.
I mean, it's hard not to have Caesar, but I do like Maurice the orangutan.
That's what I was gonna say. That's my favorite, is the orangutan. Maurice, he's the best.
Yeah, Maurice is pretty cool. Other nits is like, I feel like Brian Cox was unnecessary. Like not as a character, but like you didn't need Brian. Like
you didn't need Brian Cox.
Yeah, you didn't need Brian Cox.
I'm never gonna say no to Brian Cox, but yeah.
I like Tyler Little Bean. I felt he had like a little bit of fun because the chimp wrangler. I don't know if you remember him, who actually gets infected.
Oh yeah.
I like him.
They didn't spend a lot of time though on what was actually that part of it. Like, we knew he started coughing up blood, and we knew that all of a sudden that this was going to start killing people, but then they didn't really spend a lot of time on the fact of the pandemic, like you said.
And I don't think they need to, because it's about the chimps, and we just need to know that the world died, and we get that from that. I think it's actually kind of cheeky and cool that they kill off all of humanity during the end credits, basically.
It's newspaper clippings and things, right? And
it's mostly just that like shot of like the vectors over a world map.
And also David Aiello is in here. Is that right? Is that who the James Franco's boss is?
Is it?
Yeah. Is it David Aiello?
I didn't pick up on that.
But kind of one of the I thought his performance was really good as the person who's in it more for the money, the corporate guy.
Oh, no, the character's good. The performance is good. I just didn't clock who that actor was. That's impressive.
On Amazon for $2.99. I really enjoyed this movie. 3.5, solid 3.5. Solid 3.5 for me too. 4. Solid 4 in your case too. Nominated for an Oscar for Best Visual Effects.
Which I think I would have even thrown it the award if I recall what that year's nominees were.
Well, good. What do you guys think? Dawn? Should we move to Dawn?
Should move to Dawn.
Okay.
Pandemic's now in full force. Care, give us the rundown.
Pandemic's not in full force. Pandemic's over.
Pandemic's over. It's wiped out.
How many are left?
I try to catch. They kind of do little radio chatter and stuff at the beginning. I think I had heard 1 in 5 survival rates, 1 in 500, but that even seems really like a lot of survival compared to what we see actually on the ground. So I think it's wiped out. Most people.
Well, I mean, we see that there are at least several hundred people living in San Francisco. So, I think
whatever the ratio.
1 in 500 is, assuming that people gravitated towards it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
1 in 500 seems reasonable.
So this was 2014. This then tells a story, focuses more, which you'll like, Tim. This maybe ups it a little bit in the ratings for you because this focuses more on the apes. So this is the growing nation of evolved apes is now being led by Caesar.
Yep.
And these green-eyed apes. Everyone has to have green eyes if they've been modified, right?
If you're modified by the original therapy, yes.
Yeah.
But Caesar was born in, and then I think
Caesar does have green eyes, though.
Caesar has green eyes, but then
But I think...
Because his son's called Blue Eyes, right? Or someone's called Blue Eyes.
Bright Eyes. No, his mom was called Bright Eyes.
Mom was called Bright Eyes. I thought his son was called Blue Eyes.
Maybe he is called Blue Eyes.
I don't know.
But so they're out there, and then they've just evolved their own world. So they all live, and he's kind of like the king, Caesar, and they have their own order that they've created, their own system, and they have families, and it's like you said, they've taken over, and a decade has passed, and then because there are some humans that are left, and interestingly, the humans are the ones that are now struggling. And it's the interesting, we can talk more about this, but the interesting flip of that. And so the humans are struggling now for food and electricity and to get the means that they need. And then they come to a head where they meet. They need to get like a power generator up and going or something.
There's a dam in Caesar's realm. And they just want to be left alone. They're just they want to be doing their own thing. They haven't seen humans
they don't want to touch humans. They don't want to see
winters.
them. Yes. And Caesar's premise is peace. So Caesar's whole thing is because he runs this fine line of I understand humans and now I understand this other culture. He tries to keep the peace, but peace is short-lived and they come and butt heads essentially, and it's the story of the two. So yeah, and this was good.
This is real good.
This is real good.
This one is a 4-star for me, but I'm touching that 4.5. I'm thinking about it. I'm like really.
Where are you, Rob?
I like this one. I give it the same rating, but I think if I had to pick between the two, I actually think I liked the original a little bit more. And I think I'm a sucker for the human elements in that darn cute baby Caesar. I'm sorry. It's so cute.
That's it. That's filling your bucket, your baby bucket.
It's equal to me. But if I had to pick, I think I like the
Second's
first
equal,
one
but a little better. It's 4.1 for me.
All right.
4.1. Okay.
But yeah.
I like about the second one. So it is the Dawn. Actually, it's more of the Rise than the Dawn, but they already used that title. So it's not a Planet of the Apes yet. I think the implication we get is that this population living in Muir Woods is the apes. Like they are, these are all the super intelligent apes that exist in this forest. So it's really about two tribes, basically, roughly equal in size, roughly equal in technological capacity, duking it out in a post-apocalyptic world. Post-apocalyptic for the humans, sort of primordial for the apes, which I think is already a really cool thing that you have so is this strange, mysterious world where there's no technology the end of things or the beginning of things? And it's both. But I'm really I'm so incredibly into the setting. Like, just what is this world? This is a world that is at the low ebb of a pendulum swing between like two different civilizations, and these two different populations trying to figure out how to live in that world. And so I think that's what's really cool about it, is that it's this like post-apocalypse tribes thing, which is, I think, a great setting. And I do like the ape population a lot. I think, again, as with the first film, the apes are more interesting. We have some really great performances of really beautifully created characters, given that most of them are talking in sign language or not at all. It's just the mocap. And so that's enough to do it for me. It's just like I'm so interested in spending time with the apes and learning how their world and their culture works.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that they carried over a lot of the characters. So Maurice was back, which made it for me.
Koba.
Who? Koba
is
Koba was back. Koba's
villain.
the jerk, right?
Koba
He's
is
the bad one.
Guy.
He is really bad.
Toby Kebbell, who has been bad in a lot of bad things, but he is damned good in that.
Yeah, and his verbal skills were almost better than Caesar's. He was chatty. He was a chatty chimpanzee. So I like that. They brought back the gorilla, was still back. And I like
Rockets there.
And now they all have families. So there's that dynamic of now you have chimpanzees or apes that are protecting their families. So Caesar has 2 kids, 2 sons, and
a wife, kept by Judy Greer, randomly enough.
Yeah, I agree. I caught that in the cast, and it's the unbreakable Kimmy. No, that's not who Judy Greer is. No, never mind.
Judy Greer is great and not in nearly enough. You might remember her best. She's from Arrested Development. She's the mom who appears in one scene of Jurassic World.
Ah, right.
And made me wish that she was the protagonist.
Is she the alcoholic in Arrested Development?
She's the one who always no, that's Jessica Walter. She's the one who always shows her breasts as a way of saying goodbye.
Oh, got it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Gary Oldman's in this, who was an excellent
I totally forgot that Gary Oldman was in it until his face showed up. It's like, shit, man, it's Gary Oldman.
Yeah, he's good. Kerry Russell's in this, who I always like, and Jason Clarke plays the equivalent, maybe or so, of James Franco. He's like the...
I agree. He's the
relationship guy.
He's the man who if we care about a human, he's the one we care about.
Exactly.
And Cody Smith-McPhee plays his son, I think, or just like some kid who sort of come up along the way.
It's not his. It is his son. It is his son, but his mom is gone, and now he started a relationship with Kerry Russell, who's super cute, and there's that dynamic too.
Yeah.
So.
The things I like about this movie, you guys touched on a little bit too, is especially in the climate that we're in today too, is the value of diplomacy and how easily things can come to war by the slightest miscalculation or the slightest event, as much as you want peace for your things, and also the cost of war that happens, and why we really need to think hard before we commit ourselves, or as 2 groups to going to war, is you really want to avoid that at all costs, and sometimes it takes turning the other cheek. In the movie, the guy who's familiar with how the dam works, kind of a gun-toting guy, just easy trigger, shoots one of the apes early on. They're trying
Kirk Acevedo.
Oh wow, yeah, maybe that was him. I actually have no clue.
Yes.
Carver.
Yeah. Carver. I know him as Carver. An accident, and then Caesar has the is that something that would normally trigger a confrontation or a war? Sure. Caesar turns the other cheek and says, just stay away from us. Go back. We don't want you here. The part that bugged me the most, I guess, about this movie, number one, I'll start with positives. The direction was far better than the first.
It is.
It looks, you're
really
right, the
pretty.
setting, so much slicker.
Some of the action sequences, it's such a show-offy thing, but the camera mounted on top of the tank is like popcorn movie bliss.
Where Koba's just going to town.
And it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah. There's so much better about that, and now I'm second guessing my ranking. But the parts that, because you guys attached yourselves to the ape portions of the movie and the first one more, I missed the human parts.
Sure.
So the human parts that were here, Jason Clarke did not do it for me, and his motivations and he was so he kept coming back and asking Caesar over and over again for things, and I was like, really, you're gonna ask again?
Rob, you are Jason Clarke. That's
I know that's my
you would have done
thing.
the exact same thing. Oh, hey Caesar, just one more question.
Yeah, just one more. Just one more thing, Caesar. Can I also have
can
this?
I get you a cup of coffee,
Caesar? And now we're gonna need your help, buddy. And we need one more day. And like this. And I was like,
and
really?
I think that's the thing. We have to view this character. Caesar is the protagonist.
Right.
We're looking at this character through how Caesar sees him. And it is this sort of like, I will put up with a whole lot of bullshit to preserve the peace.
Yes.
And you are bringing me a whole lot of bullshit.
Yes.
And I think that's what's going on.
And so I guess from that vantage point, yes, it's true. It just shows like how, at what point do you draw the line and then say, no, enough's enough? Like we're going to have to go to war. Like, is war inevitable, or do you continue to turn the other cheek? And then the people that you, like a Koba, who views that as not showing enough dominance or, and I can get how a population might say, like, you're weak. Is it weakness to turn the other cheek, or is that actually courage? And it explores that, and still coming to find that I think what Caesar learns from all of this, at least from my interpretation, is, and it plays on race a little bit as well too. And I think that's what the movie is trying to talk about too. Is it's, hey, apes aren't all good either. It's not about like you're going to find evil.
There is no such thing as a population that is like one identity.
Right. So focus on the individuals versus the group necessarily. Like there are individual people trying to do good and know that about humans, about whatever species. And focus on the positives and focus on what's good about a species or humanity and things like that too, versus the individuals, and stop making broad generalizations. I love that. Maybe now it's more for.
No, I mean, I think it is a really good film about the rush to war, and like I think the question arises if Koba doesn't exist, if Gary Oldman doesn't exist, do these two populations still end up at war? Like, is that just eventually inertia will carry them, and these figures who are more warlike are just the ones who kind of trigger it, or are they actually causing it? And I don't think the movie answers that question. I don't think it wants to, because I think it wants us to think about those issues.
But it is very interesting in today's climate, just because do those people tend to rise to the top because of, like, fear is such a motivating factor for when the group of humans has nothing, like they're left without electricity, they're living day to day. The fear element, it seems to be such a positive motive, or not positive motivator, but such a motivator.
Positive in that it causes things to happen.
It's an instigator.
It groups people together in such a way where it forces them to unite, but then against something, a common threat, a common enemy. But is that a good thing in totality?
So doesn't Caesar's son, what's Caesar's son's name again?
I thought it was Blue Eyes.
Something Eyes. So Eyeballs. So Eyeballs says, he even makes a very poignant statement about fear. So when he discovers, Caesar ends up being badly hurt by Koba. Sorry, Koba. I'm going to say that wrong again. So you'll know what I'm talking about. So Koba shoots Caesar and pretends it's like a Lion King thing. Like, we don't know who did it, but he was shot. And then goes off and creates, stirs up this war, essentially. So he goes off, and out of fear, he gets this contingent of people who follow him, and then he has this loyalist group. When his son, Eyeballs, comes back and finds out that his dad is still alive, he even says, I'm so sorry to his father. And there's a line in there about fear, like, we follow because of fear. It's something along those lines. And I think that's the whole point of it, is like, people don't want to be doing what they're doing, but if the risk is, and Kubo even shows that he is going to kill people if they don't follow him, he kills somebody else, throws one of the apes over the side of a ledge and whatever, and so the people are following out of fear.
You're using fear to unite, and then after it's united, if that person shows their true colors, then it's fear being used to, like, now you can't get out. Like, it's so hard to undo
what you've done. And he doesn't want to be there. He's holding this gun and he's afraid, his son, Eyeballs is. And then
it is Blue Eyes.
Blue Eyes. Oh, you checked. Okay. I'm still going to call him Eyeballs. The other part that I loved was the dynamic of so if you wouldn't fight and you refuse to fight, like Maurice and like the gorilla and like Caesar's closest confidants and friends, they were all locked up. So they're all chained up during this war. And they said, we refuse to follow Kubo in this. And so I think it creates that interesting, would you be strong enough to be that person that says no and whatever? And
that moment with Ash where Koba takes Ash and drags him and then throws him off.
That's who I was talking about. Yeah, that's the thing that I think's instigated the fear. People see this, especially the young. So young are so impressionable. It's the old dudes like Maurice that are able to be like, nope, not doing it.
If there wasn't a whoops moment like that for Blue Eyes, probably was, my dad was right. Yeah. Like, that's got to be the moment when he takes your best friend and throws him off the edge of the
That was awful. Yeah. That was awful. Would you be Blue Eyes or would you be Maurice?
Well, I and this isn't the only application of the thought process that I've had about this. I hope I'm never put in a position where fear is this thing, and you have to. It takes a lot of courage to stand up to, like, an
something
overriding.
You don't believe in, yeah.
Like, or no, it's to stand up to something you believe in, but that where it's not the dominant idea, and there's this group force with fear of your life at risk to not buy in. Like, oh, like I hope I would be the type of person to stand up for.
So you're Maurice,
for what's right. I hope I am that person. I'd like to think I am, but you never know until you're put in those situations.
I mean, I would be Koba. So
the raging.
I'm giving you my
scary face.
I'm bowing now and extending my hand so Tim can swipe it like they do in the movie. I love that.
I love that. I love the like little, and I think that actually is ape behavior. So it's like they brought it in. But no, I mean it is
the little hand.
It
touch.
is really, like Rob says, it's hard to say unless you're in that kind of situation. What would you do? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think I would have just been Switzerland. I would have like gone and just hidden somewhere where no one could find me.
Well, I mean,
brush.
if that's an option open to me, then yes, definitely.
Yeah.
You would have been like Colin Farrell in The Beguiled and like run away once the shit got real.
Yeah. Once I know, I would evacuate. But I would take everybody that I really liked with me and hide under some brush. You guys didn't think about that.
I did not.
But next time, if this ever happens,
like your out of the box strategy.
Yeah.
A couple things I want to touch on before we wrap this up. It is as you mentioned, a beautifully directed film. Has, I think, a really simple thing, but it's so simple that it kind of calls attention to the fact that most movies don't do it. Has this really great book ending. It opens with a close-up of Caesar's eyes and tracks out, and it ends by tracking into Caesar's eyes. And
I think that.
I think it gives it such a nice, classical, elegant shape. Plus, the final scene is like so good because he does not want to do what he now has to do. And like I think that's just such a prominent part of this final scene. And to me, like that's just that kind of directing is just all over that movie, where it's just these nice little, very elegant, well thought out, iconic moments. It's a summertime popcorn movie. Like it is not an art film, but it's a summertime popcorn movie that's being very artful in how it goes about that job. And the other scene that I love, I don't love it as much as the no scene from Rise, but it is my favorite part of Dawn. And it just really gets me every time I see it. When they get the power back and is it a 76 station, I think? The gas station comes back to life. Yeah. And it's just this moment where all of these human and ape characters are just kind of overawed by what is going on. What is this?
They put a song on the jukebox.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is a good scene.
It's such a good scene. And it gets to my love of post-apocalyptic movies where it's just like, how do you have this scrap of a better time and a more beautiful civilization here in this like wild, even for just a few minutes. And
it felt like a temporary peace.
Yes.
Treaty, like no one was doing it. Everyone was just enjoying.
It's sort of like the Christmas Day treaty during World War I, when everybody just like got together in the trenches to sing Christmas carols together.
Yeah, and sadly only lasts for a few moments in reality as well too. And what was interesting too about some of the scenes here too, the scene where Caesar has the opportunity, because Koba's asked for forgiveness like 5 times throughout the movie, and Caesar reluctantly has granted it. This last time, he does not.
I was like, do not save him.
Ape no kill ape, but not this time. It actually resembles a lot of the scene where Koba actually does not pushes Jacobs or I think it's David Aiello's character off the helicopter, or pushes the helicopter. Very similar. I think in the original version of the Rise, they actually had Caesar doing that. I'm glad they did not, because I don't feel he was that person yet where now he is, where he realizes like, what do you do with evil? That's the hard part.
Right.
Is like, do you fight evil with killing? Like, is that okay? Like, I don't know. Are there acceptable times when like you gotta just snuff out a Koba type of person?
Yeah. Koba has to go down.
Okay, someone has to go down.
I was like, Caesar, I'm gonna be so mad at you if you save him. I was so mad, and then when he like flicks him off, I was like, yes. And then it ends.
I think there is an interesting moral quandary there, though, because in order to kill Koba, he has to deny, before he kills him, he basically says, "You are not an ape."
Right.
So he has to, in his head, other his enemy in order to feel comfortable with having him as his enemy. So even though it does have, I think Caesar is a moral person, he still has this capacity for putting himself into that, for being that kind of othering evil force.
And is Koba dead?
Oh,
Yes.
Koba's dead. Yeah.
No, I've read.
If Koba comes back in war, I'll be a little pissed off.
I
I'd
heard
be
some
really
breathing.
mad.
If you listen in the end, you hear some ominous breathing. So
That's Caesar. That
It's
was
just
me.
either-
That was me
Caesar-
next to
you
you.
next to
That
me
was me
snoring?
snoring. Yeah, I was out. So no, I did make it through. So that said, though, do we think, based on the two movies that we've seen here, do we have high expectations for the last one in the theaters?
I mean, I put it at my number 3 and increasingly thinking that might have been too low. So I have
right.
expectations.
I'm excited for a couple reasons. Going back to and is it okay to change to a 4 now? Like, you guys have.
We sold you.
You may.
I'm gonna go back on 4. Like, talking about this movie and its
You're
impact.
helping Tim's statistics.
I know.
Well, no, not for
That's
this.
not gonna help.
This is-
Oh, you're right. So sure.
No, I'm gonna move this. I'm gonna move this one to 4, which gets me even more excited. I should have had this on my top 5 anticipated. It's one that I forget is a franchise and that it's a big blockbuster, but it has those moments, those individual moments that it's more than just a summer blockbuster kind of a movie.
It's interesting because if you look at the stats, it is a summer blockbuster series and it's doing very well for itself. It's one that very much appeals to an adult audience. Like, all of these superhero movies, all of these action movies tend to be like, most of the tickets go to people under 25. The Apes movies, that's not true. And that's very uncommon for big summer
and you're
movies.
bringing back the stylings of Matt Reeves, who did Dawn, and I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Matt Reeves.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see it now in theater. I was not watching, but I'm glad you guys pushed for this episode because now I'm excited to see it in
Excellent.
theaters.
Glad to hear
We
that.
got to get there.
So yeah, so War for the Planet of the Apes now in theaters. So none of us have seen it, but we are all very excited. So check it out.
We also ask our audience every week to share your picks and thoughts for a chance to win a free Amazon movie rental. A lot of folks wrote in, are lucky, and a lot of the people who submitted their thoughts, big fans of the original franchise.
Oh yeah, and just heads up, as you've probably noticed if you're following the site, we are doing a retrospective of the original Planet of the Apes series right now. So
our lucky winner this week, we randomly selected one person. I'll share his thoughts. Rick Beck, who, again, like many of our folks who wrote in, big fan of the original series. His aunt had the original Planet of the Apes series on VHS, and he absolutely fell in love with the series, watching the 5 films over and over and over again. He likes everything about them and likes the reboots as well. So he's excited about the War for the Planet of the Apes, as I'm sure he's excited about getting his free movie rental. Rick, shoot us an email at contact@alternatending.com for details on how to claim your free movie rental. If you want to win a free movie like Rick, be on the lookout for a spoiler alert or top 5 movie posts on Facebook and Twitter to share your favorite picks. In closing, just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Check us out on social media, Facebook page. Go out there, like it, engage with us there. Twitter, we're posting a lot of things out there as well too. AlternateEnding.com, where you're going to find all of our reviews, blogs, podcasts, and more. Also, check us out on iTunes or Google or wherever you find your podcast. Leave us a review. We're excited to start seeing more and more reviews pop up there.
We have a new review this week.
We have a new review this week, and we're excited about that.
You know, this is my favorite part, and this is the main reason that we actually started this podcast. So, yeah, somebody left a very nice one about our natural conversation, and they did say that, in fact, it does feel like you and I are married, Rob, in quotes.
I'm glad it feels that way.
I'm sure your daughters are very glad that it feels that way as well.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that way. I don't say how it feels, but it definitely feels like we're married.
I was gonna talk about what we're tuning in for next week, but I'm not prepared. Thanks, Tim.
No, next week, in celebration of the release of Christopher Nolan's World War II epic Dunkirk, we are going to be looking at our top 5 favorite war movies.
Great.
Perfect. Catch us then.